Sherry, I want to start with you and just talk a little bit about how you think differently having a female team, but also having a client base that is a third female.
Yeah, thank you.
From traditional wealth, quote unquote traditional wealth management.
Well, I would say thank you for having me. I think the biggest lesson I've learned over time is that we need to meet clients where they are. Mm-hmm. And so in working with women, we're looking at more interdependent, collaborative working relationships with these clients instead of transactional, solution-driven MAME trading. I can't imagine that much of the MAME trading, culture is women. And so what we have found in working with women, and also what we refer to as female leads, right? So we work with a lot of suddenly single women for different reasons, is that they're looking to outperform in life. They're looking for a different ROI. They're looking for a return on impact. They're looking for a return on influence. And they are looking for a return on investment. And so with that, then naturally comes what our specialty is, which is financial planning-centric investing. I'm also a senior portfolio manager at Morgan Stanley. We build and construct custom portfolios for clients. And so we really want to lean into families that are also living in their money. They're also building the story of their family money tree. And that's very different than, hey, should I overweight, tech over healthcare, as an example. And so having that dialogue is something that they really appreciate.
Where do I get one of these money trees that she mentioned?
Right here.
Okay.
No,
right here. Let's plant it together.
Sherry, what's fascinating is it just sounds like a completely different strategy. How many women, be it that they lose a husband or for whatever reason, divorce or whatever, completely want a different money manager? They want to totally do an overhaul of their portfolio.
Well, that is a great question. And honestly, in my experience, because the fastest rising part of our practice is actually ultra high net worth divorce.
Yeah.
Over 50, Gen X women and above. Part of that, I think, just for myself is due to longevity, and people are looking around going, really, I'm going to do this until I'm 95? I don't know. But divorce and death carry the same weight of grief and loss and change. And stepping into a money identity that involves agency and authority requires a certain amount of knowledge and forgiveness, regret. And in loss, there's always a measure of regret. And I know I'm getting a little philosophical here, but this is something that people bring to the table all the time. Yeah. So more than 90% of the time, women will change financial advisors in that moment if they've not been included in some meaningful way in their predecessor financial relationship with that spouse, even if they've been with them for years. And that is something I think the industry is missing. And I'm in the business, honestly, I feel like I save marriages every day. My team and I, we talk about it all the time because we bring both spouses into the conversation. Because to your point, Tim, we're intertwining money stories. When you get married, you're not just merging hearts, you're merging money habits, and often that doesn't reveal itself until something happens.
Claire, come on in.
So how is this changing expectations from the clients in terms of what they want from their advisors?
Well, I think that that the advisor of the future would really lean into relationship oriented financial advice and guidance. Okay, something very different. I think
I was thinking like therapist and financial planner at the same time.
Absolutely. Behavioral finance is a big deal. And I'll often say to clients that like money doesn't grow on trees, but money habits do. And so for ultra high net worth families, we're building, there's the family money, but then we want to build the family orchard and have that be healthy too. So I think that there's a different level of cadence and patience in that conversation. I think you have to genuinely care for the outcome of people, and then have, a rigorous investment portfolio process that's married to the cadence of the family. Because it's not just the market volatility or geopolitical volatility that we are managing. We're managing the volatility of human behavior in their money system. And that often is the thing that actually eviscerates performances when people do things that they shouldn't do because they feel that way. I'd also like to myth bust a little bit, if we're going to talk about this, about how exceptional women are at managing money and how exceptional they are at building portfolios and understanding risk and rates of return, which is different than trading or gambling. Yeah. Very different. Very goals-based.
Wait, say that again. Say that again. What you just said, the difference.
Well, there's a big difference between investing, goals-based investing, and trading and gambling. Very different things, because one you can measure against an outcome that actually has influence and impact in your life. Oh, I was able to send my kid to college.
Right.
That's very different versus, hey, we were early in on AI, which we were in our portfolios. We're exceptional portfolio managers too. As much as we hug our clients, we deliver returns. I mean, that's the baseline.
Yeah.
And that matters on an equal basis, but that's different than the activity of trading. You know, I saw a very big culture shift when the online trading came on, just as a side note, especially from an identity standpoint, when men are retiring, as an example. Men retire, their identity retires for working, right? I mean, and so...
Do you think that will, you know, I think of my own experience as a millennial.
Yeah.
And like, do you think that identity, our identities are so tied to our jobs as our parents?
No, that's not my experience.
And like, that's going to change with the next couple generations.
It does. You know, it's interesting because for millennials, first of all, this idea of collaborative cohabitation around money and savings, this is a highly educated group of financial consumers on an equal basis. We've got more young women, millennials, in college and finance than we ever did for Gen X women. And there's a presumption that the millennials are all entering the workforce together. There is that presumption. Now, so no, I don't see that. I see more openness and more transparency because of the tech, I think, is a part of that. But however, statistically, from a divorce standpoint, millennials that get married between the age of 24, I think, and 42 have like a 40% divorce rate. So. Now, well, yeah, and I have to tell you, I don't know that has anything to do with like not loving somebody. I really do believe that it's the complex intersection of money conversations and then family trees that come to bear on that, especially when they start having kids. That was a long answer to your question, Claire.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
Can I ask you how many people, when a woman comes to you and she's like, I had no idea what was going on. I was not involved. Yeah. And I am curious if it is a certain age group or does it span older, younger?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because Gen X women were the first women to really be like, we're going to college. There were more of us in college. There were more of us in the workplace. We've now been eclipsed by millennial women, which is amazing. That's also why the wealth demographic is changing in America. More of us are in the workplace. I would say Gen X and above, or like, I had no idea, because you have highly educated women that enter into what I call the divide and conquer marriage. And they're intellectually making that decision with, a high earning partner, and they're collaborating on what that financial life can look like, but they're abdicating their ability to earn money and their involvement with it. Okay, there's a very big difference between knowing that you have it and having a voice in it, or having authority in it, or control without permission. Very different concepts. I think that millennials have an opportunity and are leading the way from a money relationship standpoint. I also see with millennials that we can merge hearts, but we don't have to merge bank accounts. And that's okay too. That doesn't have to be the thing that says I love you. Yeah. That I'm going to put you on my single name account. Or if I inherit from my baby boomer parent, which is a separate asset unless you commingle it in marriage, it's typically divorce protected, that it needs to become a part of us. It can be a part of we, but not necessarily like in this way. And I think that that's a healthy way. And prenups are like, it's like, prenups should be like a natural thing. Yeah, it should. It's just, hey, I rarely do people come into relationships, especially after the age of 40, in some money equal posture. I don't see it that often. So there's always this dialogue.
Yeah.
So
I want to zoom out a little bit more, because one thing you said to me before this was, and that I want you to talk a little bit about it. You said that, women controlling more wealth can actually reshape the entire U.S. economy. Can you dive into that a little bit more?
I think it actually is more disruptive than AI.
Wow.
I think it's the big miss, that we have this constituency of women. We are, more than half the country. We've got, $30 trillion worth of asset transfer, and we make 70% of the purchasing choices. So in my opinion, if we're in a 70% consumptive GDP in a capitalist democracy, whoever owns the economy really owns the politics too, if you really think about it. Okay. And so if you've got women now, the primary consumers, we're really directing what the nature of consumption is. That's a very powerful moment in capitalism. Now, the flip side to that is that it's $1 billion to run for president. So what we are now going to step into, I believe, is the
political side of
the political side of it. It's $50 million to run for Senate. It's $10 million to run for a House seat. What we've always lacked in the past that we've tried to pull together is the money system to capital raise to run candidates.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's been a deficiency. That's something that we have, I think women will have a big force in, whether they're inheriting it or not. It's why we've had our most successful female candidates have come into the money systems that their husbands have built prior in the baby boomer, right? So I think that that's something that's really exciting, very powerful.
So this transition and impact by women because of the transfer of wealth and having more say in the consumption economy, how does this play, or what's the time frame where you start to really feel that impact?
Oh, I think we start to feel it within 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll give you another example is that I get AI disruption, I understand it, and we've invested in these themes for now over 5 years in my team's client portfolios. What you really have to think about is what kind of decision making is someone willing to abdicate to an AI chatbot over wanting to have that intimate conversation. They're a baby boomer, they're getting a divorce, they didn't know that they had money or that they didn't. I've had cases where women thought that the family didn't have any money. Like you couldn't get a kitchen renovated, and then they get divorced and there's $20 million. Like the kind of it goes both ways. So I know, I could really tell you some stories, but it's interesting what people do around money and control, right? The money you can energize it for good. You can control people with it. You can denigrate them with it. You can celebrate them with it. It's all kinds of things you can do in a family tree. But I think that we see that within the next 5 years in a meaningful way. And women are not going to self-direct on the internet. They enjoy the partnership and that human collaboration, and they want to be a participant, not a recipient. Okay, so the patronizing kind of cultural history of Wall Street has had a wake-up call on this. Okay, what I call the language of alienation, where someone says, "Don't worry, I got it," is over. It's over. And that's exciting.